The pill bottle sat on Isla's nightstand like an accusation she couldn't escape. White label with black text printed in that clinical font doctors always used. Isla Thornwood. Antipsychotic medication risperidone 2 milligrams. Take one daily for paranoid delusions. Do not discontinue without physician approval. Refills, 3. She'd been taking them for 2 years now, swallowing one pill every morning like clockwork. 2 years of medication that was supposed to make her thoughts clearer, her perceptions more accurate, her reality less distorted by the paranoia that everyone, her husband, her therapist, her pack doctor, even her own friends insisted was destroying her mental health and threatening her marriage. Except Isla didn't feel clearer. She felt foggy, like her brain was wrapped in thick cotton that muffled everything. She felt disconnected from her own body, watching her life happen from a distance rather than actively participating in it. She felt like she was living her entire existence from behind frosted glass that kept her from fully engaging with the world around her, from fully feeling her emotions, from fully being herself. And the paranoia, the feeling that her mother-in-law Vivienne was deliberately trying to destroy her marriage and steal her mate, hadn't diminished at all with the medication. If anything, it had intensified as the drugs made her less able to defend herself, less able to articulate clearly what she was experiencing, less able to convince anyone that what she felt was real and not some delusional fantasy created by a disturbed mind. The medication brought side effects the doctor had warned her about, but that didn't make them any less awful to experience. Her hands shook constantly, a tremor that made simple tasks like holding a coffee cup or writing notes embarrassingly difficult. She'd gained 30 pounds in the first year despite eating less than before. Her metabolism apparently disrupted by the medication in ways that made her feel trapped in a body that no longer felt like hers. Her wolf was muted, barely present, like the drugs suppressed not just her supposedly paranoid thoughts but also the very essence of what made her a shifter. And the exhaustion was relentless. She could sleep 12 hours and wake up feeling like she hadn't slept at all, dragging through every day in a haze of fatigue that made everything feel impossibly hard. "You need to take your medication, darling." Vivienne's voice drifted up the stairs, sweet and concerned in that way that always made Isla's wolf growl with distrust. "I brought you some tea to help it go down. And breakfast? You barely ate yesterday. We need to keep your strength up." Isla looked at the pill bottle and wanted to throw it across the room, wanted to scream that she wasn't paranoid, that Vivienne's constant presence in their home wasn't normal, that the way her husband Damien always took his mother's side over hers wasn't healthy. Wanted to rage that something was fundamentally wrong with this entire situation and everyone telling her she was mentally unstable was part of the problem, not the solution. But she didn't scream, didn't throw anything, just picked up the pill bottle with hands that shook slightly, a side effect. The doctor had said, nothing to worry about, and waited for Vivienne to bring the tea that would make swallowing the medication easier. 2 years ago, before the pills, before the diagnosis of paranoid delusions, before everything fell apart, Isla had been completely different. She'd been confident, strong, sure of herself and her place in the world. She'd had opinions and expressed them freely. She'd had boundaries and enforced them without guilt. She'd had a sense of self that wasn't constantly questioned and undermined. She'd mated Damien at 24, bonded quickly and intensely in a way that felt destined by the moon goddess herself. The mate bond had snapped into place with such force that both of them had gasped, overwhelmed by the sudden certainty that they'd found their other half, their perfect match, their forever person. Damien had seemed perfect, kind, successful, respected in the Thornwood pack. He worked as the pack's beta second, managing logistics and security with competence that everyone admired. He was gentle with Isla, attentive to her needs, eager to build a life together. His mother, Vivienne, had seemed pleased initially, welcoming Isla with open arms and declarations that she'd always wanted a daughter, that she was so happy Damien had finally found his mate. that Isla was exactly the kind of woman she'd hoped her son would choose. The first hint that something was wrong came just 3 months after the mating ceremony. After Isla and Damien had settled into their new beautiful house on the edge of Pack, territory with a view of the mountains and enough space for the family they planned to have someday, Vivienne had shown up one morning with suitcases and a contractor's estimate. Just temporarily, she'd explained with a smile that didn't quite reach her cold blue eyes. My house is being renovated. Major structural work. They found water damage in the foundation, and the whole place needs to be gutted and rebuilt. It'll only be a few weeks, maybe a month at most. I promise I won't be in the way. You won't even know I'm here. But weeks became months, and months became permanent residence that was never actually discussed or agreed to, but somehow became established fact. The renovations that were supposed to take a month stretched to 6 months, then a year, then indefinitely. Every time Isla gently asked when Vivienne's house would be ready, she'd get vague answers about delays and complications and contractor issues. Eventually, Isla realized the renovations weren't actually happening. Vivienne's house sat unchanged while she settled deeper and deeper into Isla and Damien's home, transforming what should have been temporary shelter into apparently permanent living arrangements. Her things appeared in the living room, the kitchen, even the master bedroom where she'd leave helpful notes for Isla about housekeeping and meal planning. She inserted herself into every aspect of their lives with such cheerful determination that objecting felt petty. It bothers me that your mother is always here, Isla had told Damien 6 months in. I love her, but I thought when we mated it would be just us, building our own life. Instead, she's everywhere, making decisions, rearranging our home, acting like this is her house instead of ours. She's just trying to help, Damien had replied, his tone suggesting Isla was being unreasonable. She's lonely since Dad died. Having her here makes her happy. What's wrong with wanting to make my mother happy? Nothing. But what about making me happy? What about our privacy? Our independence? You're being selfish. Family takes care of family. If you can't handle my mother living with us, maybe you're not as mature as I thought. The conversation had ended with Isla apologizing for being selfish, promising to be more accommodating. Swallowing her discomfort and telling herself Damien was right, she was being unreasonable. Family did take care of family. Vivienne had lost her mate. Of course she needed support. Isla should be grateful she had a mother-in-law who wanted to be involved rather than distant. But the situation got worse, not better. Vivienne's helpful suggestions became constant criticisms. The way Isla cooked wasn't good enough. The way she cleaned wasn't thorough enough. The way she dressed wasn't appropriate for a mated female. Even the way she talked to Damien was wrong, too casual, not respectful enough. Lacking the proper deference a wife should show her husband. I'm not trying to criticize, Vivienne would say with false sweetness. I just want to help you be the best mate possible for my son. He deserves someone who knows how to run a proper household. Don't you want to be that person for him? And Damien would nod along, agreeing with his mother's assessments. She has a point, Isla. Maybe you should pay more attention to the details. Mom's been running a household for 30 years. She knows what she's talking about. Isla tried to adapt. Tried to meet Vivienne's impossible standards. Tried to be the perfect mate who cooked elaborate meals and kept the house immaculate and dressed appropriately and spoke differentially, but nothing was ever good enough. Every effort was met with more criticism, more suggestions, more ways she was failing. And then the paranoia started. Or what everyone else called paranoia, but what felt to Isla like growing awareness that something was very, very wrong. She started noticing things. Small things. Disturbing things, like how Vivienne would touch Damien constantly, hand on his arm, fingers brushing his shoulder, adjusting his collar in ways that seemed just slightly too intimate for a mother and son. Like how Vivienne would position herself physically between Isla and Damien whenever possible, creating distance in the very moments Isla was trying to connect with her mate. Like how conversations between mother and son would stop abruptly when Isla entered the room, as if they'd been discussing things they didn't want her to hear. "Your mother touches you a lot," Isla mentioned to Damien one evening after watching Vivienne spend an entire dinner with her hand on his knee. "It makes me uncomfortable. The way she shit just seems excessive. You're imagining things." Damien's tone had been dismissive. "She's my mother. Of course she touches me. That's normal family affection. The fact that you're sexualizing it says more about you than her." "I'm not sexualizing it. I'm just saying it's a lot of physical contact. Stop." Damien's voice had turned cold. "I'm not going to let you attack my mother because you're insecure about our relationship. She's done nothing wrong. You're projecting your own issues onto innocent behavior." After that conversation, Isla had tried to ignore the touching. Tried to tell herself Damien was right. She was insecure. She was projecting. She was seeing problems that didn't exist. But her wolf wouldn't let it go. Her wolf snarled every time Vivienne got too close to Damien. Her instincts screamed that this wasn't normal, wasn't right, wasn't safe. Then things escalated. Isla started having nightmares where Vivienne was trying to replace her. Dreams where she'd come home to find Vivienne and Damien in their bed together. Damien looking at his mother with the love that should belong to his mate. She'd wake, gasping, her heart racing, convinced something terrible was happening even though she had no proof beyond feelings and bad dreams. "You need to talk to someone," Damien had said, after Isla woke screaming from another nightmare. "This isn't normal. The paranoia about my mother, the nightmares, the constant accusations. You need professional help?" "I'm not paranoid. Something is wrong. Listen to yourself. You sound unhinged. My mother is a kind, generous woman who's done nothing but try to help us. And you've convinced yourself she's some kind of villain. That's textbook paranoid delusion. You need to see a therapist." So Isla had gone to therapy, hoping desperately for validation. For someone outside the situation to confirm that, yes, her concerns were reasonable. Yes, this living arrangement was unhealthy. Yes, boundaries needed to be established immediately. She'd made an appointment with Dr. Carson, a therapist the pack recommended for mate bond issues. Had sat in his tastefully decorated office with its soft lighting and comfortable chairs and framed certificates on the wall proclaiming his expertise in wolf psychology. Had spent 50 minutes explaining in careful detail her concerns about Vivienne's behavior, the constant criticism, the inappropriate touching, the way she positioned herself between Isla and Damien, physically and emotionally. The feeling of being slowly erased from her own marriage. The nightmares that felt like premonitions of something terrible waiting to happen. Had expected validation. Had hoped the therapist would confirm that, yes, this situation was profoundly unhealthy, that Vivienne's behavior crossed multiple boundaries. That Isla's discomfort was completely justified and actually showed good instincts about protecting her mate bond. Had anticipated advice on how to set boundaries, how to communicate with Damien about his mother's invasive presence, how to reclaim her marriage from someone who seemed determined to infiltrate and control it. Instead, Dr. Carson had listened with increasingly concerned expressions, making notes on his tablet that Isla couldn't see but could imagine patient shows signs of paranoid thinking, delusional beliefs about mother-in-law, possible psychotic break. When she finished talking, when she'd laid out everything she'd noticed and everything she felt, he'd been quiet for a long moment before delivering a diagnosis that shattered what remained of Isla's fragile confidence in her own perceptions. "Isla, I want you to really hear what I'm about to say, because it's important for your recovery and your relationship," Dr. Carson had begun. His voice that particular blend of gentle and authoritative that doctors use when delivering bad news they expect patients to resist. "You're experiencing paranoid thoughts focused on your mother-in-law. This is actually quite common in women your age, particularly those in new mate bonds. There's often anxiety about not being good enough, fear of not measuring up to expectations, insecurity about your place in your mate's life. Those anxieties can manifest as suspicion of the person you perceive as your primary competition for your mate's attention and affection. But it's not just anxiety. The things I described, the touching, the constant presence, the way she acts like this is her house and her marriage, are behaviors you're interpreting through the lens of paranoid thinking? Dr. Carson had interrupted gently. Let me ask you something. Has your mother-in-law ever actually said she wants to replace you as Damien's mate? Has she explicitly stated that she's trying to sabotage your marriage? Well, no, not in those words exactly. Has she ever done anything overtly sexual or romantic with Damien? Kissed him inappropriately? Made explicitly seductive comments? Tried to get him alone in compromising situations? No. But the touching is constant and it feels wrong. Affectionate families touch. Isla. That's healthy. Parents hug their adult children. Mothers put hands on their sons' arms during conversation. That's normal family affection. The fact that you're sexualizing and cutting mother-son affection suggests your thinking is significantly distorted. Dr. Carson had leaned forward, his expression graved. Combined with the nightmares you described, the constant anxiety, the intrusive thoughts you can't control, the inability to accept reasonable explanations for behavior, I think we're looking at a paranoid disorder, possibly with obsessive-compulsive features. It needs treatment before it destroys your marriage and your quality of life. Isla had left that appointment with a prescription for antipsychotic medication and instructions to take it daily to manage her paranoid delusions. Damien had been relieved. Vivienne had been supportive in that cloying way that made Isla's skin crawl. And Isla had started taking pills that were supposed to make her better, but instead made her feel like she was disappearing. 2 years of pills. 2 years of everyone telling her the medication was helping, even as she felt progressively worse. 2 years of her concerns being dismissed as mental illness rather than legitimate observations. 2 years of watching her marriage crumble while being told the problem was her paranoia. Not the woman living in their house who touched her husband like a lover and looked at Isla like an obstacle to be removed. This morning was different, though. This morning everything changed in a way that would expose 2 years of carefully constructed lies and systematic poisoning. Isla had woken early, hours before her usual alarm, pulled from sleep by her wolf, who'd been increasingly agitated despite the medication that should have suppressed such instincts. She'd gotten out of bed carefully, trying not to wake Damien, who was sleeping peacefully beside her, completely unaware that his mother had been destroying his mate for 2 years with poison disguised as herbal supplements. Isla had gone downstairs for water, her mouth dry from the medication side effects that the doctor insisted were normal and manageable. The house had been quiet, dark, pre-dawn stillness, making every small sound seem amplified. She'd walked into the kitchen, reached for a glass from the cabinet, and her eyes had fallen on something sitting innocently on the counter beside the coffee maker. A small vial, dark brown glass, handwritten label in Vivienne's precise, elegant script that said Wolfsbane extract 3 drops daily in morning beverage. Do not exceed dosage. Store in cool dark place. Next to the vial sat Illa's favorite tea mug. The ceramic one with wolves painted on it that Vivienne brought her every single morning without fail. The one that she'd used to make Isla's morning tea, adding honey and lemon and allegedly nothing else. The one that Isla would drink while taking her antipsychotic medication, never suspecting that the tea itself was the real poison. That the pills she was taking for paranoia were treating symptoms created by systematic wolfsbane poisoning rather than any actual mental illness. Isla had picked up the vial with hands that started shaking for reasons that had nothing to do with medication side effects. Wolfsbane, a plant that was toxic to all wolves but especially dangerous when administered in small, consistent doses over extended periods. In large amounts, it was obviously poison caused immediate violent reactions, made shifters violently ill, could kill within hours if the dosage was high enough. But in tiny amounts, carefully measured and administered daily, it did something more insidious. It created confusion, made thoughts foggy and unclear, caused paranoid thinking and anxiety that seemed to come from nowhere. It weakened the connection between human and wolf until shifting became difficult, and the animal side seemed distant and unreachable. It made victims seem mentally unstable, delusional, disconnected from reality. It made people look exactly like they needed antipsychotic medication, when the real problem was the poison being administered under the guise of care and concern. "You're up early." Vivienne's voice behind her made Isla spin around so fast she nearly dropped the vial. The older woman stood in the kitchen doorway wearing a silk robe, her silver blonde hair perfect despite the early hour. Her cold blue eyes immediately fixating on what Isla was holding. Her expression shifted from surprise to something calculating and dangerous. When she saw the wolfsbane vial in Isla's trembling hands, "I see you found my herbal supplement. For my arthritis, you know? The pack doctor recommended it. Said it would help with the joint pain I've been experiencing lately. This is wolfsbane." Illa's voice came out stronger than she expected, clear and steady despite the rage and horror flooding through her system. Her wolf was suddenly very present, very alert, pressing close to the surface with protective fury that the poison had suppressed but not eliminated. "This is poison. Specifically poisoned 2 wolves. And you've been putting it in my tea? For how long, Vivienne? How long have you been poisoning me?" "I have no idea what you're talking about." "That's an herbal supplement for joint health. The fact that you're accusing me of poisoning you just proves exactly how much you need your medication. You're clearly having another episode of paranoid delusions." Vivienne moved toward her with false concern painted across her features, her hand outstretched like she was approaching a dangerous animal that needed to be calmed and controlled. "Give me that vial before you hurt yourself with it. You're clearly not thinking rationally. You're confused and scared, and your mental illness is making you see threats that don't exist. Let me help you. Stay back." Isla's wolf surged forward with protective fury, her eyes beginning to glow with the amber light that came from a wolf about to shift or use their enhanced abilities. "Don't touch me. Don't come anywhere near me. I know exactly what you've been doing. The tea every morning, the symptoms everyone said were mental illness, the paranoia that all the doctors insisted was in my head, it was real. Every bit of it was real. It was the wolfsbane creating those symptoms. You've been systematically poisoning me to make me seem crazy, unstable, unfit as a mate. That's absurd. Why would I so you could have him?" The pieces were clicking together now, falling into place with horrible clarity. "So you could have Damien Nesh? You never got over losing your mate. Never accepted that your son had bonded with someone else. So you moved in, isolated me, poisoned me, to make me seem unstable, and positioned yourself to replace me. Didn't you?" Vivienne's expression changed. The false sweetness melted away, revealing something cold and possessive underneath. "My son deserves better than you. Deserves someone who understands him, who puts his needs first, who actually appreciates what she has, instead of complaining about a mother who just wants to help. You're not his mother right now. You're acting like a jealous mate." Isla backed away, still holding the vial. "This is sick, Vivienne. He's your son. What you're doing, what you've been planning, it's twisted. I raised him. I know him better than anyone. Better than you ever could." Vivienne's voice was rising now, losing its careful control. "You got 2 years of him? I got 30. He's mine in ways you can't understand. And yes, I made sure you'd be removed so I could have what's rightfully mine." "So what? You were weak. Easy to manipulate. Easy to make look crazy. You brought this on yourself by not being strong enough to keep him. By poisoning me. By destroying my mental health. By making everyone think I was delusional when I was actually being systematically drugged." Illa's hands were still shaking, but her voice was getting stronger. "That's not me being weak. That's you being evil. Call it what you want. It worked. Everyone thinks you're unstable. Even Damien questions whether you should be his mate. A few more months of this and he would have rejected you, would have sent you away, Would have needed comfort from the one person who's always been there. Me? Vivienne smiled, and it was nothing like the sweet expression she usually wore. This was predatory, possessive, absolutely insane. But you had to go snooping. Had to find the wolfsbane before I could finish what I started. So now I have to accelerate the timeline. She lunged forward, faster than Isla expected. Grabbed for the vial. Isla dodged, her wolf reflexes finally unimpaired by the poison that had been clouding her system for 2 years. The vial fell, shattered on the kitchen floor, wolfsbane spreading in a toxic puddle. What's going on? Damien appeared in the doorway, his hair disheveled from sleep. I heard, shouting, Mom, Isla, what? Your mother has been poisoning me? Isla gestured to the broken vial, to the spilled wolfsbane, to her morning tea mug sitting on the counter. For 2 years. With wolfsbane. To make me seem paranoid and unstable, so she could convince you to reject me and take my place as your mate. Damien stared at the evidence. At the broken vial. At his mother's guilty expression. At Isla, who suddenly looked more lucid than she had in years. That's insane. Mom, tell her she's wrong. Tell her you weren't. She found it. Vivienne's voice had lost all pretense now. I didn't want you to find out this way. I was trying to protect you from her. She's not good enough for you, Damien. She never was. You deserve someone who truly understands you. Someone who's been there your whole life. Someone who loves you more than anyone else possibly could. You're talking about yourself? Damien's voice was hollow with dawning horror. Mom, you're talking about two wanted to be my mate? You've been poisoning Isla so you could... He stopped, looking sick. That's not normal maternal love. That's God. That's twisted. It's not twisted. It's natural. You're mine. I raised you. I know you. Vivienne's carefully constructed facade was crumbling completely. She's just some girl who trapped you with a mate bond. I'm your mother. I've always been here. Always loved you. Always put you first. That bond is deeper than any stop. Damien held up a hand, his face pale. Just stop! This is Zai. Can't believe what I'm hearing. You poisoned my mate. Made her seem crazy. Gaslit both of us for 2 years. Planned to replace her as my mate. Do you understand how sick that is? It's not sick if it's love. It's not love. It's obsession. It's abuse. Damien turned to Isla. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. I should have believed you. Should have questioned why you suddenly developed paranoid thoughts. Should have noticed she's very good at hiding it. Isla's voice was shaking. She had everyone convinced. The therapist? The pack doctor? You? Me? Even I started believing I actually was paranoid. That my instincts were wrong. That I was crazy. But you weren't. Damien moved toward her, stepping carefully around the spilled wolfsbane. You were being poisoned. Everything you felt, everything you tried to tell MIT was real. And I dismissed it. Told you to take medication for a mental illness you didn't have. Let my mother destroy your health and our relationship because I was too blind to see what was happening. You need to leave. Isla looked at Vivienne with cold fury. Right now, get out of this house. Get away from us. And if you ever come near me or Damien again, I'm pressing charges for attempted murder and conspiracy to interfere with a mate bond. Damien, you can't let her do this. I'm your mother. Get out. Damien's voice held alpha command he rarely used. Isla's right. You need to leave. Now. Before I call pack security and have you forcibly removed. Vivienne stared at them both with an expression that cycled through denial, rage, and something that might have been genuine confusion about why her plan had failed. Finally, she left without another word, her footsteps heavy on the stairs as she went to pack. Isla and Damien stood in the kitchen, surrounded by broken glass and spilled poison and the ruins of 2 years of systematic manipulation. I need to stop taking the antipsychotics. Isla said quietly. I need to detox from the wolfsbane. I need to figure out who I actually am without poison and medication clouding my mind. I'll help. Whatever you need. And Isla, Damien's voice broke. I'm so sorry I didn't believe you. I should have trusted your instincts. Should have investigated your concerns instead of accepting my mother's explanations. I failed you as a mate. I let someone poison you for 2 years because I was too stupid to see the truth. She was very convincing. Isla felt tears starting, the first genuine emotional release she'd had in years that wasn't dampened by medication. She made me doubt my own reality. Made everyone think I was mentally ill. That's hard to fight against, especially when the person doing it is someone everyone trusts. But you never gave up. Even when everyone said you were paranoid. Even when you were drugged and gaslit and isolated, you kept noticing, kept questioning, kept trusting your instincts enough to keep looking. Damien pulled her carefully into his arms, avoiding the broken glass. That's not weakness. That's incredible strength. The detox took 3 months. 3 months of Isla's body purging the wolfsbane that had been poisoning her system for 2 years. 3 months of withdrawing from antipsychotic medication she'd never actually needed. 3 months of her mind gradually clearing, her wolf getting stronger, her true personality emerging from the fog that had obscured it. And as she healed, the full extent of what Vivienne had done became clear. The poisoning hadn't just been about making Isla seem paranoid. It had been about weakening her to the point where rejecting the mate bond would seem like a mercy, where Damien would feel justified in choosing his mother over his mate, where Isla would be so obviously unstable that no one would question her being sent away. She had it all planned, the PAC's investigator told them during the official inquiry into Vivienne's actions. We found journals, detailed notes about dosages, symptoms, timeline. She'd been planning this since before you even mated. Since Damien first mentioned he'd found his mate, she saw you as a threat from day one. And she was willing to destroy Isla's life to eliminate that threat, Damien said, his voice hard. More than that, she was willing to destroy multiple lives, yours included. If this had worked, if Isla had been rejected and sent away, if Vivienne had successfully positioned herself as the investigator, paused delicately, as an inappropriate replacement for a mate, bond, the psychological damage to you would have been profound. The trial was public. Vivienne was charged with attempted murder, conspiracy to interfere with a mate bond, and systematic abuse of a PAC member. The evidence was overwhelming. The wolfsbane, the journals, testimony from Isla about the poisoning and its effects. Medical reports showing exactly what 2 years of microdosing wolfsbane had done to her system. Vivienne was found guilty on all charges, sentenced to exile from all PAC territories and permanent separation from her son. As she was led away, she looked at Damien with betrayed eyes, like she couldn't understand why he was choosing his mate over his mother. Because that's what normal wolves do, Damien said, his voice steady despite the tears on his face. They choose their mates. They protect their mates. They don't let their mothers poison their mates and then wonder why their sons side against them. You taught me to honor mate bonds, to respect the moon goddess's choices. You just didn't expect me to actually do it when it meant choosing Isla over you. 6 months after the trial, Isla stood in the kitchen where she'd discovered the wolfsbane vial and felt whole for the first time in years. Her mind was clear. Her wolf was strong. Her sense of self had returned, no longer obscured by poison and medication, designed to suppress symptoms that weren't actually symptoms of mental illness but evidence of being systematically drugged. How do you feel? Damien asked. He'd been asking that question every day for 6 months. Like he needed constant reassurance that she was actually okay, that the damage his mother had caused wasn't permanent. Like myself, Isla smiled. Like the person I was before the poisoning. Before the gaslighting, before I started doubting every instinct because everyone said I was paranoid. You weren't paranoid? No. I was perceptive. There's a difference. Isla turned to face him. I noticed things that were genuinely wrong, and everyone, including you, told me those observations were mental illness. That's dangerous. That's how people get trapped in abusive situations. Someone notices abuse, reports abuse, and gets told they're crazy for noticing. I know, and I'm sorry. I should have trusted me. But you were also being manipulated. She was your mother. You'd trusted her your whole life. She used that against both of us. Isla moved closer. I'm not saying it's okay that you didn't believe me. I'm saying I understand why it happened. And I understand that we both survived something designed to destroy us. Are we? Damien stopped. Started again? Are we going to be okay? The mate bond? Our marriage? Everything she tried to ruin, can we recover from this? We're already recovering. Every day I'm off the medication. Every day the wolfsbane clears from my system. Every day I feel more like myself. Isla took his hand. But it's going to take time. I spent 2 years having my reality denied. That doesn't heal overnight. I'll wait. However long it takes, however much work is required. Damien squeezed her hand. You're my mate. My actual, chosen Bithamun goddess mate. Not my mother's twisted replacement fantasy. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving I deserve you. 2 years after discovering the wolfsbane, 4 years after the poisoning had started, Isla sat in a support group for wolves who'd experienced gaslighting and systematic abuse. She was leading the group now, using her own experience to help others recognize the signs, trust their instincts, and understand that sometimes paranoia was actually accurate perception of real threats. For 2 years I took pills for paranoia, she told the assembled wolves. Antipsychotic medication that I didn't need for a mental illness I didn't have, because my mother-in-law was poisoning me with wolfsbane to make me seem unstable so she could steal my mate. And everyone, doctors, therapists, my own husband, believed her instead of me. How did you get through it? A young female asked. How did you keep trusting yourself when everyone said you were wrong? I didn't always trust myself. There were days I believed I actually was crazy. Days the medication made me so foggy I couldn't think clearly enough to question anything. Days I wanted to give up and accept that maybe everyone else was right about me being paranoid. Isla met the young wolf's eyes. But my wolf never stopped growling. Never stopped insisting something was wrong. Even when I couldn't consciously access those instincts, they were there, pushing me to keep looking, keep questioning, keep searching for proof. And when you found it, when I found it, everything changed. The gaslight was exposed. The poison was identified. The abuse was undeniable. And suddenly I wasn't paranoid. I was vindicated. Isla smiled. Trust your wolf. Trust your instincts. And if everyone's telling you you're crazy for noticing patterns and asking questions, look harder. Because sometimes paranoia is just pattern recognition that other people don't want you to see. The group howled agreement, and Isla felt her own wolf howl with them, strong and clear and absolutely certain. She'd survived 2 years of poison, 2 years of gaslighting, 2 years of systematic abuse designed to make her disappear so her mate's mother could take her place. But she'd survived. And now she was using that survival to help others recognize abuse before it destroyed them. To trust themselves when everyone said they were paranoid. To understand that sometimes the person calling you crazy is the one whose behavior you're accurately identifying as wrong. She'd taken pills for paranoia, but the paranoia had been poisoning. And now that she knew the difference, now that her reality had been validated and her instincts proven correct, she was unstoppable. Thank you so much for listening to my story. Where are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. I love hearing your thoughts. And if you'd like to support me, please subscribe. It's free and it helps more people hear these stories.